Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is a newly crowned IFBB Pro. Today's guest is Jordan Wise. Jordan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Quentin. Good to be here.
For sure, my man. So I'm excited to chop it up with you. You just had an exciting weekend in terms of earning your IFBB Pro card. We're going to get into all that. First of all, I'd love to know, who are a few of your favorite bodybuilders of all time?
Favorite bodybuilders for me of all time were probably most of the guys from the 212. The ones that come to mind specifically are Sean Clarita, Guy Cisternino, and Flex Lewis. You know, Flex Lewis is one of the greats for the 212s. Sean Clarita is obviously one of the greats currently. Guy Cisternino just retired, but he was definitely one of the heavy hitters that I looked up to as far as the training style, the hardcore, grunting, slinging, and banging weights in the gym. So he kind of actually was kind of the first one I stumbled upon watching YouTube videos and kind of getting into the sport, and was like, yeah, I want to train like that. That looks like a lot of fun.
Love it, man. I love it. So tell me, Jordan, at what age did you start lifting weights? And then why did you start lifting weights at that age?
I probably started lifting weights, I would say around like 17. It was full body workouts. It was running. It was things like that. I really just got into it because I needed to lose some weight. I wasn't always the most in shape kid, and I wanted to join the military. So it was coming towards the end of my high school career. And I said, okay, well, I need to get in shape. I need to be prepared for, basic training, boot camp. And that's what I did. I got into it and just started running and working out. And of course, I had no idea what I was doing, but I would just watch people in the gym be like, okay, I'm going to try that next. And, like I said, I was doing full body workouts. I didn't know how to break down, a split or anything like that for training.
All right, my man. So talk to me a little bit about your upbringing. You said you weren't always maybe the thinnest kid. So talk about, just your family dynamics a little bit. Talk about some of the sports that you played, any of the other extracurricular activities you're involved with. And then once we get up to high school, I want you to talk about the reason why you decided to join the Army. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So my childhood, I played sports young. I played sports as a young kid. I played, soccer and basketball and stuff. I dabbled baseball, things like that. But I was really young. I kind of started playing more basketball, like middle school age, and then kind of realized, yeah, I'm really short. This is not going to be my sport in high school. So I just kind of let it fade. My family was, I will say, like, my older brother and my younger brother were both soccer jocks. And my dad was a soccer jock and tennis jock and everything growing up. And so our house was definitely full of like really competitive sports. My brothers and stuff were on traveling teams. They played club soccer. They were, always shooting video to try to send off for, future college stuff. And so it kind of just, at the time when I was a kid, kind of burnt me out. I just didn't really want to be a part of that. I didn't really feel like I was, I guess, the traditional jock per se. So I kind of got into other things. I was into music. I played drums and was in bands and things like that. I also got into art. I got into skateboarding a little bit, which kind of helped me lose weight a little bit as well. But, I was never just a traditional athlete. I didn't play football. I didn't play soccer. I didn't play basketball, like, very competitively or anything like that.
So talk to me a little bit, because you're, I don't know if it's a post from today or a post from yesterday, but your latest post on Instagram, you talked about your why, and then a little bit about being a black sheep. Talk to me about being a black sheep. What does that look like? What was that like when you were younger?
Yeah. So like I said, I wasn't the most fit kid, and my brothers were. Naturally, I wouldn't say my brothers were my bullies, but I did get bullied some. I definitely heard it from other kids and stuff that I was, fat or chunky. And my brothers did give me a hard time and stuff as well. Not in the sense of trying to be mean, but, brothers will be brothers type of thing, it's sibling rivalry. So I definitely got a lot of that. And I kind of felt like, with my family being the jocks and me being kind of more of the artistic side and kind of free spirit, that I didn't really feel like I belonged anywhere, you know. And then I was kind of the skateboarder that played drums and was in bands, and I didn't really feel like I belonged anywhere. As far as even in high school, I just kind of, you know, I wasn't not liked, but I was never like the popular kid or in with the jocks or in with the preppy kids, you know, type of things. It was never like I kind of had a spot that I fit in. I kind of just did my own thing, and I was okay with that. You know, I was just happy being myself. I never have ever tried to be anyone but myself.
That's awesome, man. That's kind of a rarity, especially at that age, because most of us, when we're younger, we're trying to figure life out. We're trying to figure ourselves out. We're trying to figure out where we fit in. So that's definitely honorable. So, where did the military come into your mind? Like, kind of like what age? I mean, when did you start thinking about that? And then why did you decide to enter the military, and why the Army specifically?
Well, I'll be honest with you. It was really just comes down to I hated school. I was coming close. I wasn't bad at school. It just wasn't for me. I didn't feel like I, you know, wanted to continue on and go to college and stuff. And you know, my dad just sat me down one day, and you know, he was a great mentor. That still is. I talk to him about everything all the time. But he just sat me down and he said, "Okay, well, you've got to figure out what your future is, and you've got to figure out something." And my dad was military. Both my grandpas were military, so I come from a military background. And he just said, "You know, why don't you go and try this? Why don't you try to get a few years under your belt? If you like it, you stick with it. If you don't, you get out. But now you have, you know, grounds where you can go back to college. You know, you can go to college for free. You can, you know, just all the benefits that come along with it." And really just talk to me about like how it's going to mature me and kind of get me to grow up and give me time to figure out what I want to do versus, you know, sitting on a couch, living in my parents' house, trying to work, you know, McDonald's flipping burgers or something like that, trying to figure out what's next. It really gave me a position to self-propel myself to figure out what I wanted to do with life.
So how many years did you serve, Jordan? And then just maybe talk about some of the positive experiences, maybe some of the takeaways for you once you were in the military.
Yeah, so I served just under 4 years. I got hurt pretty bad and had some surgeries and some setbacks as far as kind of later on in the military, just before getting out, I was really kind of finding myself getting into bodybuilding and stuff. And so I was training, and I was military police. So, you know, all my shifts were crazy hours, 12 to 16-hour shifts sometimes, working, you know, crazy nights and stuff, dealing with cases. And so I started packing protein shakes and, you know, grilled chicken and putting it in a backpack and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, it really just taught me, you know, the discipline and everything that it involved. So I got into it, and then I ended up getting injured, ended up having surgeries, and I kind of lost about 30 pounds that I had probably put on. And so, yeah, kind of one of those things, setbacks, but, you know, made me stronger mentally to figure out, you know, this is really what I want to do, and I want to get back to it. So as soon as I was able to, and as soon as I was recovered, I was back on the horse going, all right, it's time to be a bodybuilder. With my injuries, though, the military said, hey, you're too injured. We're going to go ahead and put you out. So I was medically discharged from the military. And then it was trying to figure out what's next. I did go back to school. I did get a degree, but I still feel like that's probably not for me. I enjoy coaching. I enjoy, you know, training. I enjoy, you know, getting people to transform their lives, lose weight, build muscle, all that type of stuff. And I really just got into that farther and deeper as I've been doing the whole competing thing.
So talk to me about, you said at 17, right around that age, you started just kind of like full body working out. When did you actually get introduced or exposed to bodybuilding? And then obviously it sounds like it might've come when you were in the military. So just talk about that, and then talk about how you kind of started out training. I mean, did you have somebody kind of show you the ropes, or was it, again, just going to the gym, watching people, figuring out, watching YouTube videos? What did that look like? So when were you exposed and introduced to bodybuilding? And then what did your training look like in the immediate?
Yeah, so I was probably exposed to bodybuilding, I would say around, probably like 2013-ish. I started working out in the gyms that were on post. And I had a roommate at the time that had been following bodybuilding. He worked out hard and stuff. And he's, we started watching YouTube videos of bodybuilders and stuff. And it first started, let's watch how to do this exercise properly. And then all of a sudden, the links start rolling in where you're like, oh, well, let me click on this one and click on this one. And then it's a rabbit hole and you start watching bodybuilders. And then we started watching stuff from Mr. Olympia and stuff. And we both said, man, one day I want to do that. Now, of course, he didn't end up continuing on with that. But I continued on going into the gym and I just started doing what I saw in those videos. And I started having, other guys from other units that were big, and some of them even competed, kind of take me under their wing and say, hey, man, we see that you're training hard. Why don't you come train with us? And so I just kind of got picked up and kind of found, again, kind of back to that black sheep thing. I just kind of felt like, no, this is for me. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And, these are my people that understand me. And so I started getting involved with working out with some of the biggest guys I was probably 130 pounds at the time, maybe, like soaking wet. And I was working out with guys that were like 250, 260. So it was a lot of fun. It definitely pushed me for sure.
Excellent, man. So let's talk a little bit about, because, a thread through our conversation up to this point is, I think, you're kind of that black sheep, a little bit of a free spirit, you said, and your dad suggested, hey, join the military, give it a try. You might learn something. You might kind of find yourself, so to speak. So it sounds like bodybuilding really gave you that identity, and that's kind of the identity that you have stepped into. Is that fair to say, Jordan?
Oh, definitely. That's definitely fair to say.
So talk about that. I want you to expound a little bit more on what that post is in terms of your why, right? Because I feel like all of us as human beings have a purpose, right? Some of us know very passionately what our purpose is, and a lot of people unfortunately don't. But we all have a purpose. We all have a why, whether we know it or not. Talk to me how bodybuilding coming into your life and that becoming your why, how has that like transformed your life, and how has that really given you purpose?
Yeah. So like, I guess even just the first show that I ever did, I first started competing back in 2016. First time I stepped on stage, it just was a, eye-opening, just an amazing feeling. It was just one of those things where I was like, well, when can I get back on stage? Everybody wants that. I feel like if they feel like that's where they belong. And that was the post, like you said, the why thing. I posted that, that was today. And I just posted about, the stage for me is such a, like, I feel like I'm sometimes kind of a wound up person. Like I deal with like some anxiety and I deal with, stress. And of course everyone does, and we all handle it different and stuff. But like when I'm on stage, I just feel like I belong there. I feel like I'm free. I kind of feel like I'm on top of the world. It just feels like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I was meant to be doing all along. And you just finally feel like you belong. And so for me, it's just definitely been, like you said, kind of like become my identity. But I've loved every bit of it. There's people that will, oh man, I love to be a bodybuilder, but I hate having to diet down, or I hate having to do this much cardio. And Justin even said it in your last podcast that, military guys are the best guys to work with, because we're kind of like, yes, sir. But in my mind, I'm just like, man, I've been through worse. And this is nothing. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, I enjoy every aspect of it. And I know there's a lot of bodybuilders and stuff that might say, oh yeah, you got to love the suffering and stuff, and try to sound hardcore, but it's not like I'm trying to sound hardcore or anything. It's literally like, I love every aspect of it. And I don't dread, if he says 20 more minutes of cardio, okay, I'll get it done. If he says, we're going to drop 100 grams of carbs, okay, I'll get it done. It is what it is. I'll suffer. It's fine. No big deal. So it's definitely been good for me. I enjoy the push. I enjoy the challenge, and getting out of the military. I feel like I would be bored all the time without that challenge, without that push, without something that's continuing to get me to strive to make myself better.
Excellent, man. So let's talk about that first show. Did you have a coach? Did you do it on your own? Just maybe something that you learned from that first show outside of knowing that you loved bodybuilding. And then why don't you just start unpacking your competition history for us, Jordan. And then don't get too much into the details of nationals, because we'll get there at some point. And I'll ask you some questions specifically about this past weekend. But first show, did you have a coach? If not, when did you hire your first coach? And then unpack that competition history, please.
Yeah, so I did kind of have a coach. It was kind of on and off. It wasn't really an official thing. It was just somebody from the gym that I trained with that gave me advice. And then I kind of I feel like the wrong thing, like every bodybuilder does. They kind of listen to everybody. And that was kind of more of also just because I didn't have an official coach. As far as like, I didn't really have like, it wasn't extremely regimented. So I would say I kind of coached myself, kind of had a coach, and then kind of also had, 15 other people in my ear at the same time. So, you go through it, and it's a learning process. And so you get up there, and for me, it was just one of those things, like eye opener. I loved it. But I remember, I can't remember his name, but I'm pretty sure the guy that was there was foreign, that won the whole show. And I'm pretty sure he was Russian, and he was probably 260, 270. So I win my class, and I get up there, and I'm like thrilled. I won my first show and everything. It was a very small show, but I get up there and for the overall, and I just look over, and I mean, this guy is just nasty peeled, huge. And I'm just like, what am I doing? Like, I don't even understand. Like, I didn't even understand that I was going to have to stand next to this guy. I didn't understand there was an overall that was going to happen. So it was definitely like an eye opener, like, okay, well, I'm going to have to be a lot bigger, and I'm going to have to be really shredded. And so it taught me a lot, but, it let me know that this is something that I feel like I could do.
So then after that first show, what was the next show? And then just discuss a little bit more of that history of competition.
Well, I don't know if you want me to go into all of my shows. So this past nationals, I'm not going to get into it because you said you want to ask me questions about it, but that was actually my 10th show. So I have competed in quite a few shows. That was actually my 4th nationals. So there's quite a few in between. I did like the Palmetto Classic in South Carolina. I've done a couple. There was a local show that I did. I can't remember the name of it, but it was in Columbus, Georgia, kind of by Fort Benning military base. The first show was the Body B1 competition was in Alabama. I did the Monster Classic this past year. I did Nationals 2017. I'm trying to remember all of them.
Why don't you, Jordan, why don't you just talk about some of those national appearances, some of those national shows that you've done, okay?
Yeah, so my first nationals was 2017. Like anybody else, I was like, cool, I won a regional show. Let me go check this out. And I was humble. I knew that I probably wasn't going to be amazing, by no means. I didn't expect to turn pro or anything like that. But I was like, let me go get my feet wet, just like my first show. And I need to see what this is about and see what this, this next level looks like. And of course, I got spanked. So 2017 was definitely another eye opener to realize, what it takes to turn pro and kind of what it takes to have a pro caliber physique. I think I ended up in, I don't even know. There wasn't that many in my class, but I went as a lightweight, and I should have probably been a tiny bantam. I mean, I was not peeled enough, and I was not, my conditioning wasn't there. So that was an eye opener. It was a little rough and kind of hard to swallow, but of course you just take it with a grain of salt and say, okay, that's what this was. It was a learning experience. And then you want me to tell you about the other national shows?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. And then, so I competed in the Dexter Jackson Classic and qualified for the Nationals in 2019, which when that was still when it was in Miami. So I went to Miami 2019 and competed. I took 3rd place, and then I competed 2020 last year, and I took 3rd place again. And so if you know about Nationals, your top 2 get a pro card, and your 3rd place gets a good job. So that was, it's very hard to swallow, but it's a cool thing to be like, okay, I'm in the top 5. I know I'm in the mix, but it's also kind of like watching the other 2 guys turn pro right in front of you is kind of a kick to the stomach a little bit. You kind of deep swallow. But that was kind of our joke with me and Justin this year. we kind of went back and forth, and we just said that was our mantra. It was like, no more third place. So it kind of turned into a joke, but yeah, that's what we came for this year. It was like, no more third place.
For sure. So talk to me about the 2019 Nationals when you got third. So that first time that you missed your pro card by one position, did that, obviously I'm sure it hurt a little bit, right? Because you're a competitor and you want to do the best that you can and get that pro card. But once maybe some of those initial feelings and emotions subsided, did it really just light your fire then going into 2020, or did it kind of set you back a little bit?
It definitely lit my fire. It definitely lit my fire. Once the feelings of, man, I missed it kind of passed, I kind of went, man, I'm glad I didn't get it, because you know, when you can look at yourself honestly and look at yourself in the mirror and be real with yourself and say, was I ready to turn pro? No. Do I think that I could have continued on and tried to be a pro at that level? No. And so it was one of those things of, if I would have turned pro, I would have probably been like, you know, it would have been, I don't know, 2-3 years off, and then trying to step on a pro stage or something like that. And I would have probably gotten it handed to me. And I mean, I don't know what my future holds now, but I definitely feel better about where I'm at now than where I was then.
So then once you got third place in 2020, what were some of those feelings and emotions at that point?
Feelings and emotions at that point were, I was frustrated, and I won't really go into all of that as far as like drama. But I didn't feel like some things were clicking between me and my coach at the time. And I'm not going to drop a name or anything, none of that. I'm not that type of person. But I ended up splitting with that coach. Did kind of basically my own off season by myself. And I was kind of really hesitant to figure out who was going to be my next coach. And me and Justin have been friends for quite a while, like since 2000, I'd say like 2018, or we met or something like that. And we just hit it off, and we've been good friends. We always stayed in touch. We kind of trained together whenever he lived in Georgia before moving to Florida, because I currently live in Georgia. And then he just started talking to me, and we kind of talked back and forth. And we eventually got around to where I opened up to him and kind of talked to him about some of my frustrations of the last year and kind of what I felt like didn't go as planned and what I didn't agree with. And he was like, well, you know, I would love to coach you. I would love to be involved. Just think about it. If you want to just continue to talk and just kind of go through your off season, that's fine. And we stayed in touch the whole time. And I just kind of gave him updates as I felt, you know, were needed. And he was like, all right, well, now's the time. So you need to flip the switch with me, or either you need to figure out something so that you can, you know, solidify a coach. And so I ended up saying, all right, you've been there for me. Let's do it.
So talk about kind of what Justin brought to the table for you, maybe different from previous experiences with coaches. What was the difference with Justin, and what was it like working with him through this prep up to nationals?
Well, me and Justin are very similar in body type. So it was very easy for him to understand kind of my body and figure out how everything clicked. But me and Justin, I think on the last podcast kind of made a joke. He talked about, you know, that he's younger than me, but you know, he's kind of like you know, I always made a joke. We had message him and be like, when he would get stern about things, I'd be like, yes, dad, you know, kind of just joking with him. But I'm a little older than him. And so I kind of look at him as like a brother. We kind of have a lot of banter back and forth, but we really click on, you know, when it's time to get to business, we get to business. And when it's time to have fun, we know how to have fun. And so, you know, I feel like we kind of really just balance each other out. And I feel like balance is key. You know, you have to have both sides of the spectrum. I feel like at least that's what I feel like is best for me. I don't really like having a coach that feels like a dictatorship. I kind of like the fact that we're friends, and I like the fact that he listens to me. And he told me that from the beginning, you know, hey, you've coached people, you've done enough of your own coaching. I've coached myself at times. And he said, you know your body, So if you feel like you want to speak up, if you say, hey, I don't agree with this, he's like, I want to hear every bit of feedback that you have. So it really clicked on a lot of levels where I was able to speak my mind, be able to say, this is what I see, and kind of bounce things off versus just a coach giving me like, all right, this is your plan, stick to it, A, B, and C. Because it's like, sometimes 1 + 1 isn't just always 2. It's, it's not always just a simple math equation.
For sure. So did Justin have any say in terms of your training, or was he more just giving you kind of the guidelines in terms of nutrition?
I've kind of always done my own training. And that was kind of because of the position that I was in where I did my own off season. And so he kind of was like, all right, I'll give you some pointers and I want you to send me videos every now and then. But he didn't really want to like mess with anything that I was already doing going into prep, because you start trying to throw too many, I guess, different things in there. You kind of run into battling against someone's body that's already kind of in a certain progression. So yeah, he gave me tips and he say, hey, this is what I see, and so on and so forth. We've kind of already talked about this year. He has some things that he really wants me to work on, and he has some things that he thinks that I could definitely improve on as far as changing some of my techniques and stuff. But we kind of left it alone, except for, certain times when I would send him videos and say, hey, what about this or what about that? But for the most part, it was kind of just like I'd already been in the swing of things. So we didn't want to throw it off course too much.
So is your training kind of mirror Guy Cisternino then, or what does your training look like up to this point, Jordan?
Well, I will never say I'm going to say I would mirror guys. Just, I'm very humble, so I don't know if I can ever say I'm on that playing field. But I have sent videos to Justin, and Justin says that I do train hard. So I do feel like I'm a little bit higher volume guy. I really like training all out, kind of always to failure. And of course, Justin kind of tells me like, you're doing a little bit too much. But some of that comes from just, the gym is kind of also just a therapeutic thing for me. And I feel like if I don't leave it all out on the floor and I leave the gym, then I don't feel satisfied. And so that's where some of that same mentality comes from. Like I would say, watching the Guy Cisternino videos and things like that, because he's one of the ones, you watch him and Branch, and they don't leave any stone unturned in the gym. They just go all out until you think they're going to probably die, and then they go some more. And that's kind of how I've always been. And Justin has said, hey, you're probably doing too much. You probably, need to take it a little easy on certain things, just because of burning out too much tissue and things like that. But I have a hard time struggling on being able to pull back. So
that makes a lot of sense. So let's get into just kind of like yesterday with Justin, talk about this prep specifically. So did you compete in another show before Nationals this year? I just kind of want you to start from, the beginning of the prep and just take us through the entire year up to Nationals. And then why don't you kind of just start unpacking this past weekend for us, please?
Yeah, so it was a 20-week prep. About 5 weeks out, we did the Monster Classic. I didn't need to requal because the past 2 years, with Nationals already getting third, top 5 continues to qualify. But we wanted to jump into that so he could learn my body a little bit more with peaking me right. And so we did. I was a middleweight for that show. He peaked me great. I came in hard as nails, and I took the overall, which was pretty cool. I'd never won an overall before. Usually being a smaller side bodybuilder, I'm only 5'3.5", so very short. And so sometimes you get stuck next to, a really peeled light heavy or a really peeled heavy, and it's pretty much like, okay, well, I'm not going to win. But it was cool to win the overall for that. But it was a total 20 weeks, so we came right off of that. He said, you get one free meal tonight as soon as I won, and tomorrow back on cardio, back on your diet. So we did that. And then 5 weeks later is where we landed in Nationals in Orlando. With Nationals this weekend, getting to that, it's been a surreal experience. It's been great. It was really cool to hang out with him. I kind of made the joke. So Justin is a lot more connected in the bodybuilding world than I am. He has a lot of, friends that are high up. He's friends with, obviously he's friends with Matt, who's his coach. Just a lot of connections. And it was funny, I went and hung out with him in his room. I stayed at an Airbnb just because it was cheaper for me. But I stayed in the hotel with him because he was like, you're not leaving my sight. I'm going to keep eyes on you at all times. So we hung out together. We ate together. We posed together. And, he introduced me to a lot of people and stuff who, of course, they were like, who are you? What class are you in? Nobody really knew who I was, but I told them, I was like, I'm very grateful for just meeting some of the people that I've looked up to in the industry that are connected to him. And I said, I kind of feel like, again, he's younger than me, but I was like, I kind of feel like I'm your younger brother that you took to high school, because I'm just walking around and kind of just like, I'm just being quiet, just trying to keep my head down. Like, I don't know any of these people personally, I follow them on social media and stuff. And he was just like introducing me, and they were like, oh, okay. Hey, what's up, man? And it was great though. Everybody kind of like made me feel at home, and everybody made me feel like I belong there. And it was a really good experience. And it was really cool to just share that with him and have him turn pro and me turn pro. And we were talking about it the other day. Is like, I can't think of, anyone off the top of my head. I'm sure it's been done, but I can't think of anyone off the top of my head. And he was trying to think of somebody too. He couldn't, where the coach turns somebody pro, but it's also his first athlete to turn pro, and he turns pro at the same time. And so that's a really cool experience to have. He did make the joke, so I'm going to make the joke on here. He said, one thing is though, you can always tell everybody you turned pro before me, because I turned pro because I'm in a smaller class than he is. And then he turned pro after me. So I told him, I'm definitely going to make sure I hold that over his head.
So tell me, Jordan, in terms of maybe some of those people that you follow on Instagram, and then you got to meet because of Jordan, was there one person that kind of sticks out in your mind, maybe of some advice they gave you, or just maybe their aura, or somebody that you just really thought was kind of cool that you got to meet them? Was there one or maybe two people that you got to meet over the weekend?
Yeah, definitely Matt Jansen, super awesome guy. Great to talk to him for a little bit. I even got to do some posing with Justin, and he was kind of in the room and gave me a few tips and things. Definitely Justin Shire. Justin Shire is a great guy. I got to train with him and Justin. We both went and hit our last workouts together that Thursday before the Saturday of competition. And that dude is phenomenal. He's got big things. He's going to go far. He's with Hostile Subs already and stuff like that, but he's going to be a big time pro for sure. Super great guy, super nice. There's so many people. I got to of course take pictures with Chris Bumstead and Ian Valet, and I got to take a picture with Sean Clarita, and he gave me some kind words, and so that was really cool. He was there with Matt and all, with all the Revive and Raw crew, but I really wanted to get a picture with him just because I really look up to him, but we're kind of similar in height. So I told him, I was like, hey, I'm not a giant killer yet, but maybe one day, hopefully I'll be there. So he gave me some kind words about that. And those were some of the cool people that it definitely made the weekend just that much better. And it was such a cool feeling to have those people around for sure.
I love that, man. That's beautiful. So talk to me about your mindset going into this nationals. You missed the pro card by 2 places the last couple of years. So for this national specifically, what was your mindset? What was your focus after prejudging? What were your thoughts? How were you feeling? Just touch on that for a minute, please.
Yeah. So my thoughts, like starting into the year, I thought I was going to be a little bit bigger. So we came into that first show. I was a middleweight. That's where I figured I was going to be. And we kind of decided to do the same thing that actually Justin decided with Matt. And that was to pull him down. And he said, look, if we get to you, same thing that Matt told him, if we get you to this weight, then we're going to just go ahead and pull you down. And so we pulled me down to a welterweight. I don't feel like, again, same thing he said, I don't feel like I lost any tissue, but it just got me harder. I was extremely hard, extremely grainy, extremely dry. So I think it was the best choice overall. it was also a really good choice because me and him talked about it, that if we were competing in the same class and going against each other. Now, if I would have won, it wouldn't have mattered, hey, I'm his client, he turned me pro, which would have been disappointing for him that he didn't turn pro. But if I would have lost, there would have been kind of probably some spectators that would say, oh, you didn't do as good with your client because you wanted to beat him. So we were just kind of talking about, the fact that it's a good thing that we're not competing against each other because of conflict of interest. And so it just worked out perfectly the way it was supposed to work out. It was like I was able to pull down, he was able to pull down, and we were both able to pull out the wins.
After prejudging, what were your thoughts and emotions?
After prejudging, so Justin even said this in your last podcast as well, but he said, he kind of had to believe it more for me. And part of that is because I've taken third the past 2 years. And those 2 years, I know I could have been better, but those 2 years, I also thought I was at least probably second. So I thought, all right, at least minimum second. And when you get there and you get to finals and you get third and you get let down like that, my whole thing was, I can't say it until it's there, until it's happened. And so I got off stage and I was super ecstatic. I felt great. And he was like, oh, you got that. It's in the bag. That's yours. And I was like, all right, well, I'll say it tonight when it happens. So he was like, man, I have to manifest this for you all the way through, because it was one of those things I couldn't just say, there's a lot of people say, if you say it, it'll happen. You got to believe it. You got to, say it out loud and stuff. And I've just never been one of those guys. I've just always been like, I'll say it when it happens. I'll believe it when it happens. I'm not going to, I wouldn't say I'm superstitious, like I'm going to jinx myself, but it's just one of those things where I don't like to say it and I don't like to come off any type of way of ever being cocky. I'm extremely humble and it's just extremely excited to be where I'm at.
So then talk to me about finals. Obviously, Jordan thought prejudging went really well. I'm sure you probably deep down in your heart felt like it went really well. So did you have a lot of fun? Did you enjoy finals? Did you kind of cut loose? Were you still kind of buttoned up and focused? Talk to me a little bit about that. And then once you realize that, hey, I got my pro card, let's talk about that.
Yeah. So we stayed really buttoned up, really tight all day. Just saying really, really strict diet, really strict on any type of water intake. Had to stay really dry. We wanted to make sure that I came in at my best still at finals. Backstage, it was starting to kind of trickle in my mind, like, okay, this could definitely be mine. And about the time that I went out to hit my finals routine was when I really just relaxed. And that's the post from today where I said, during my routine, I had all these feelings of, feeling free, feeling like I'm where I'm supposed to be. So kind of all of my stress kind of just melted away. And I just was like, I got this, in the sense of not like, oh, I got it on first place, but like, I knew that my physique this year was just so much better, and whatever happened, happened. I didn't care at that point. I was just so happy with what I had brought to the table. And I was so happy with how prep had gone and just the whole experience, hanging out with Justin. I was just extremely happy about everything. It was kind of a flood of emotions. And then when I got my pro card, of course, obviously more flood of emotions. I didn't cry or anything, but I'm not a huge crier. I guess I don't really wear my emotions on my sleeves as much as far as showing them. Maybe that's from the military a little bit, but it was very surreal. It was kind of like one of those like, wow, this is a dream that's come true. And then it really hit me the next day. It really wasn't even that night. That night I was just kind of like, I felt like I was a zombie. I was exhausted. And I don't know if you know, but like the finals got pushed back like 2 hours. So it was supposed to start at like 5 and it didn't start till like 7:30 because prejudging had taken so long. So we were waiting forever. So I think by the time we got on stage, it was like, I don't know, probably close to midnight already. So at that point I was a zombie. Everyone wanted to take pictures. And all I could think about was, let me get some food. I'm hungry. Where's the bottle of Gatorade and some water? Like, I'm super thirsty. I'm dehydrated. And then the next day was, once I kind of got some fluids back in me and kind of felt normal, it really hit me. And I was, very emotional. And me and Justin talked, and we had to go to that. We went to the next day to the photo shoot for the NPC News, and it was pretty cool. We were just hanging out and just talking about it. It was definitely like cool. The next day, I feel like it kind of hit us both.
Excellent, man. How many followers on Instagram have you gained?
Over the weekend, I don't have a crazy social media following, so I'm hoping to get some more. But I probably went up, like, I'd say close to about 400 or so. So not a crazy. It wasn't like, flooding in by the thousands, but some people are mentioning me, and it's starting to get around a little bit here and there. So, and I'm trying to post more. I'm trying to, more on my story and more on my page. And I'm going to definitely be trying to post more training videos going into this off season. Definitely, kind of want to do a road to pro debut series and stuff at some point and get some videos going. So hopefully more will take off. That's the plan.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What was there a food that you were kind of craving post show? Did you have it? Did you just kind of like stick to your bodybuilding food? What did that look like?
So afterwards, we ended up going off. We went, and of course, I went to the shower. That was number one for me. But I was really just thirsty. I didn't really have like a specific craving for anything. I was fed really well, like all day. So, we were having to keep me full and stuff for so long. So it was every few hours, it was, 250 grams of rice, 240 grams of rice, 220 grams of rice, with protein and stuff. So I wasn't really like starving by the time, it hit. I went and took a shower, and we ended up going out to a whole group of us that was basically there, went out to IHOP. And because there wasn't a lot open by the time we had gotten done, but it was probably like 3 a.m. and I had some pancakes, and then I was like, I'm ready to go to bed. And that was it pretty much. So.
Awesome, man. Pancakes are good, man. Any time of the day and in any state that you're in. So I think Justin yesterday kind of let the cat out of the bag in terms of what your pro debut is going to be. But why don't you talk about what you guys have kind of talked about in terms of your pro debut, and why don't you talk about maybe some of those areas that you guys are going to focus on in terms of bringing up some of those body parts and just your mindset going into an off season now?
Yeah, I actually, after seeing the podcast, I texted him. I said, hey, man, you should have let me talk about my pro debut. And he said, oh, I'm sorry, man. I didn't even think about it. It just kind of came out. And I was like, yeah, but I wanted to be the one to announce it. No big deal. I'm not mad at him. It's not a big deal. But yeah, we're planning on the Puerto Rico Pro 2023. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm excited about that. Hopefully it's actually in Puerto Rico. This past year, they had it in the Bahamas because of all the COVID stuff that was going on. But hopefully it'll actually be in Puerto Rico because I don't really want to go to the Bahamas. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It'll be my first real off season in a while. I don't know if you saw the post that I posted the other day, but I kind of posted a comparison between my 2019 Nationals and my 2021. And I put on a lot of size. I put on a lot of tissue, but in between those 2 years, basically I had competed 3 times still. So my off seasons were, this past year was my max was like 7 months of off season because we did a 20-week prep. And so, yeah, this one's going to be probably, trying to remember, I think around like 14 weeks of off, or 14 months of off season before we start prep, 13 or 14. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how much size, how much tissue I can put on, and how much food I can eat, push the food, push the training, all that good stuff. But yeah, we kind of just set things in motion. We kind of talked about, the same thing he talked about was putting it down, writing it down, basically making it a reality. This is what's set in stone. That way you have a plan in action, and that way you have, a motivation, something that you already know that you're shooting for. And I feel like that's the best thing for me as well. I'm a military guy, and you don't just run out in the desert without, your mission brief, your mission objective, all that good stuff. And so you you kind of want to have something that's going to put you on a path for success. You want to have something that's going to drive you with motivation, and you want to kind of have that, I guess, set in stone so that you're focused, you're looking at the target, you know exactly what you need to do. And I feel like that's going to take me a lot farther in my off season than just saying, okay, well, I'm just going to wait until I feel like I'm good, because you're never going to feel like you're good. As a bodybuilder, every bodybuilder always knows we're our worst critics. I'm always wanting to be bigger. I'm always wanting to be leaner. I'm always wanting something to be better. That's how it's going to go. And so having that mission basically set in stone lets you know, okay, I have a target. I need to hit it. And then at that point, we'll see where I'm at.
Excellent, man. So what are some of the, I'm sure overall size is probably one of the focuses, but are there any body parts that are going to be a little bit more hyper focused on in terms of this off season?
Yeah, I definitely want to bring up my legs a little bit more. I brought them up a lot this year, but I'm just a very dominant upper body bodybuilder. So it's very easy. My arms, my shoulders, my chest, things like that grow easier for me than my legs. I was training legs, sometimes most of the time twice a week during off season. And so that got me to get them to grow a lot. But they still need more. They need more size. My posterior chain still needs more. My lower back still needs more development. All of that stuff has come up a lot, but still definitely looking at it, looking at pictures, and, posing for Justin and stuff we've already talked about. Those are some of the things that, same stuff that I said too. He wants to change some of my training styles, a little bit of how I hit things with those specific areas. But yeah, those are the things that I definitely need to work on. And then, of course, like you said, just overall size, need to put on more weight, need to eat more food, need to grow a little bit. I'm 5'3", so I don't really know, or 5'3.5" really, but I don't really know where my, I guess you'd say my roof is, as far as I'm going to be a 212 bodybuilder. Do I know that I'll ever be, tip top of that? I don't know, because I don't really know if it'll, trying to get all the way to 212 and having to get past that to come down to 212. Will I still have lines? Will I have blown my stomach out? Things like that. So I might always be one of those bodybuilders that has the illusion that I'm bigger than what my actual scale weight is. And that's something that people even saw with me being in a welterweight. Every time I've competed there, everyone's like, you're in what class? That doesn't even make any sense. You look like you're in two classes up, or whatever, so on and so forth. I'm very short, very dense, thick and stocky, so those are some of the things that are great for bodybuilding. They weren't great for basketball, football, soccer, so on and so forth. But we'll see how things go. And I'm just going to try to put on as much tissue pretty much everywhere. And like I said, kind of focus on some of those key points, bringing those up for sure.
What was your body weight on the day of nationals?
It was about between 168, 170 roughly. I had to weigh in, we had to get down, and I had to weigh in at 165.
All right. So talk to me a little bit. We're going to wrap up our chat here soon, Jordan, but talk to me about coaching, because I know that you do some coaching of your own. So talk about, when did you start that, and what are maybe some of the things that you enjoy about coaching yourself?
So I started personal training right after I got out of the military. I was obviously into the gym and working out and getting into bodybuilding. So I started personal training, and that was kind of me just learning more nutrition stuff and kind of learning more of, I already kind of felt like I knew a lot about the gym, but I didn't really have like a full understanding of, macros and protein and carbs and the breakdown and how everyone's body works and so on and so forth. But I really enjoyed training people, and I really got to see, I worked for a training company, and they had people that did their nutrition as well. And then I trained them, and it was just great to be a part of that process and see people, their faces light up, whether it's, the soccer mom that wanted to drop 20 pounds, or, the young girl that's getting married and wants to drop 20 pounds so she can fit in her wedding dress, or, whatever it is. It was just cool to see that. So that really got me as far as being passionate about helping people meet their goals. And then recently, probably more so within the last year, I started offering coaching stuff. I have a couple clients that want to compete that haven't competed yet. I had one that was in prep that was going to do a show. He ended up having a baby at the time and thought he was going to be able to juggle both and couldn't. So I haven't had anyone step on stage with me yet. I have a lot of lifestyle clients, that I just take care of their nutrition and their, training programs and supplementation and stuff. But yeah, I'm looking forward to eventually coaching competitors and stuff. That's always open. But I really do love, the lifestyle, the like I said, the soccer mom or the dad or whatever, the people that feel like, I can never lose any weight, and just to show them and open their eyes that, you can live a healthier lifestyle, you can feel great, you can have more natural energy, you can, play with your kids or whatever, and, you can drop body fat and not be miserable. And that's something that I've really found that I'm very passionate about.
So if somebody wants to reach out to you, Jordan, in terms of coaching, is Instagram the best way for them to connect with you? And if so, why don't you give out your Instagram right now, please?
Yeah. So my Instagram is JWISE, which is my first initial, and then my last name, and then it's _1992, which is the year I was born. Or they can always email me too. My email is jordanwise21@gmail.com.
Perfect. So Jordan, kind of in closing here, why don't you share maybe just some thoughts that you have for some of the younger listeners or people that are just maybe getting into bodybuilding. Maybe they're thinking about competing, and or maybe they just did their first show. Those people that are what everybody calls newbies within the sport of bodybuilding. Do you have any words or any encouragement for those listeners?
Really just keep on going. People always ask me, what is your biggest thing that contributes to your success? And I always just say consistency. There's nothing that's magic. There's nothing that's overnight. But if you'll stay consistent and you'll do everything that you're supposed to do, whether that's, eating the meals, not eating the junk food, doing the cardio, doing the hard stuff that, that you don't want to do. Well, I don't feel like training my back today, or I don't feel like doing legs twice a week. If you'll just do it and stay consistent over time, all of those days, all of those years will add up. And so that's what I tell kids. Really just, that I talk to kids in my gym all the time that are like high schoolers and stuff, of course. And they ask me, man, how do you get big, and what do you eat and all this stuff? And I tell them, I can give you a diet plan and everything, but if you're willing to stick to it, it really just comes down to consistency. So you just got to trust yourself. You got to trust the process, and you just got to stay consistent with it. And all of those things that you do, with eating and supplements and everything, it will all add up to success.
So, who's somebody, Jordan, at some point when you step on an IFBB Pro stage that you would love to be on the same stage with in terms of a pro already?
Well, definitely, I would have to say Sean Clarita. I think that would be somebody that I would definitely want to stand next to, just because of just the height. There's nobody else in the 212 that's as short as he is. And we're pretty neck and neck. If I believe so, he's 5'2", and I'm 5'3.5". So we're right there, neck and neck with each other. And so it would be fun. Now, do I think I would beat him? No, didn't have no ideas of any of that. But I would love to stand next to him. And I told him that. I said one day I would love to stand next to you on stage. So it would be just a thrill for me to stand next to somebody who I look up to so much, but also just a comparison of somebody that's so short and stuff, because I feel like all my life I've been, of course you get the jokes, and it doesn't faze me anymore, but all my life I've heard, oh, you're short this, and all the short nicknames that go along with it and stuff. And especially in the military guys, number one for talking trash. So, if I could do everything in the military that they could do, they wanted to talk trash to me. So it's really cool to see somebody, that when you're looking up to, and everyone tells you, you're short, you can't do this, you can't do that. And you say, well, that guy did it. And so it's that motivation that would say, I'd love to be next to him, because I know he's done it. And I know that gives me motivation to say that maybe one day I could do that.
what has bodybuilding taught you in terms of life, and then just kind of like an overall lesson or two that you feel like, hey, if I wasn't a bodybuilder, or if I didn't step into this experience of bodybuilding, I may never have learned this. So what is that? Is there something that bodybuilding you feel like has really, really taught you, Jordan?
I think it's really taught me, I'd say balance. You know, I look at the sport, and I was talking to Justin about this actually the other day, and I feel like there's so many bodybuilders that really just, and I'm not trying to bash anyone, but they kind of have this excuse of, you know, well, it's a selfish sport. Yes, it is. It's an extremely selfish sport, you know, and it's one of those things that you put your family, you put, you know, your loved ones on the back burner while you're eating meals out of Tupperware, and you can't do things and you can't go certain places and stuff. But I don't feel like that should be an excuse to not find other ways. I mean, you have to be creative sometimes, and you have to come up with, you know, solutions and be, you know, be a problem solver. But I feel like there's ways to be able to have balance in both realms. And I feel like that's taught me a lot about, you know, just not being selfish and not taking things for granted, and feeling like that, you know, I can find balance in this. I can be happy doing what I want to do with my life and love it. But that doesn't mean I have to drag others down. That doesn't mean I have to, you know, not be able to share things, you know, life, and being able to go out and do things with people and stuff. And yeah, am I going to be a little extra tired? Yeah. Do I have to make sure that I'm prepared to take my meals everywhere I go? Sure. But, you know, at the end of the day, that's better to me than waking up one day 20 years from now and be like, yeah, I was a great bodybuilder, but now I'm alone. So that's something I feel like I've learned a lot from it. And that's something I'm still learning. And I feel like it's something that's an ongoing learning process to figure out new ways and innovative ways, excuse me, of how to handle both sides of the spectrum.
That's awesome, dude. I love hearing that, especially from somebody that, you know, just got their pro card. And you have, I tell people all the time, you know, like the IFBB pros that I have on here, we sometimes, when we turn off the podcast, have conversations. And, you know, like you guys, when you guys get the IFBB Pro Card, whether you realize it or not, you instantly have a platform. You instantly have a platform and have respect from certain people, because there's so many people that, you know, they might not even compete in bodybuilding, but they're watching the YouTube videos. They watch some of the shows, like they're fans, they're supporting you guys. And like like, especially these younger kids, just like us, when we got into bodybuilding, we looked at the magazines, we got on YouTube, we saw the Jay Cutlers, the Ronnie Colemans, the Branch Warrens, the Guy Cisterninos. Like, we're like, dude, like we look up to those people, we listen to them. And a lot of times, like, I feel like guys and girls, athletes that get that pro card, they don't realize the platform and the opportunities that they have. So I just want to say, thank you for saying that you can have, you know, a professional bodybuilding career. You can be a top NPC athlete. You can have a family. You can have a career. You can have balance and be great at all of that. Yes, we're all a work in progress. But that balance can be achieved if you have the discipline, right? So I really appreciate you saying that, Jordan. Okay.
Yes, sir. 100%. That's exactly what I believe.
Cool. All right, man. So now you're married, correct?
I am.
Okay.
Yes.
Why don't you talk about your wife? Sorry, I don't know what her first name is, but why don't you talk about her and how she's been an integral part in you know, this pursuit of being a professional bodybuilder?
Yeah, so her name is Amber. She's a physical therapist. She has a doctorate of physical therapy. She is not a bodybuilder. She is extremely, probably, I would say extremely, that's maybe a strong word, but she's pretty much the opposite of me, which, you know, they say opposites attract. I can be very outgoing. I mean, obviously I get out on a stage in practically my underwear. So, you know, I'm not shy. I'm not timid. I'm very outgoing. I'm very outspoken. I speak my mind. I let people know, you know, my thoughts and things like that. She's a little more quiet, a little timid, and a little more shy. She was an athlete running cross country and track all through college. And then, you know, I watched her from finishing her associate's degree when we first started dating to bachelor's degree. And then we got married, and then she went into a doctorate program. And so I've been there for all of that, and it's been a long journey for her. But now that she is a doctor, she doesn't do as much on the running side. She's not doing as much with athlete type stuff, but she does try to work out and stay in shape and everything, but of course not to my level. And that's okay. We can have our own separate things. She's okay with me, hey, well, you eat your meals and I'm going to make something else tonight, and so on and so forth. We don't have to eat together. We don't have to do everything together. She understands, what I'm doing, and she's very supportive of it, and she doesn't really get upset with it. So that's definitely a bonus. I feel like there's a lot of, girlfriends and spouses that might not respond that way. And like I said, I always try to do my best to find balance and make time and make things important, even after my show. Okay, I turned pro. I was like, all right, where you want to go eat? She's like, it's your night. It's whatever you want. And I'm like, well, I don't care. I don't really care. I'm not craving food. Like whatever you're wanting, you can have what you want now, type of thing. So I'm always looking to try to like include her in it and make sure that she's happy along the way. Biggest probably thing that she has done is, now that she is a doctor, she is making a decent living salary wise. So I have stopped working my job and been able to focus on bodybuilding completely, coaching, and I do still do some personal training and stuff as well. I'm possibly looking at in the near future getting into real estate. But I want something that's extremely flexible for what I'm doing. This is where I'm passionate. This is what I want to do. I want to be a pro bodybuilder. And she's okay with that. She's like, that's fine. I want you to go and follow your dream. I want you to be happy. And, we'll figure out the finances as we go. And so that's something that has been good, because she's pretty much, I always make the joke, but she's my sugar mama.
No, that's awesome, man. I mean, good on Amber for, getting that doctorate degree. I mean, that in and of itself, is an amazing accomplishment, man. To have a partner that supports you like that is, it's cool to hear. So, Jordan, we're going to wrap it up, man. You already gave out your Instagram, but, if you have any final thoughts, if you have any final words that you want to leave myself and, the listeners, man, the platform is yours. And then, I think I saw that you're connected with Prodigy Apparel. So if you want to give any shout outs, final words, final thoughts, any shout outs, go for it, man.
Final words are thank you, Quentin. I'm very appreciative of you having me on. This is actually my first podcast I've ever done, so I'm very grateful. It's a very cool experience. Final words is, like I said, going back to consistency and balance. Find balance in everything that you do. Be passionate about what you do, and you'll be able to find that balance and put in the consistent hard work. Outside of that, yes, Prodigy Apparel. Shout out to Justin Jacoby. He's definitely brought me on as part of the team. I've been with them for about a year now. And so they're definitely a good group of people, all of the athletes and stuff that are on the team, and definitely some great clothing. So you'll have to check them out. But yeah, that's it. I appreciate it. I'm just happy to be here.
Hey, man, I just want to say thank you, and you're welcome, Jordan. And shout out to Prodigy. Justin has been a guest on the podcast, and we've kind of kept in touch a little bit after his episode. And very, very good people, man. So that's a great brand and company to be repping. But Jordan, I appreciate it, man. All of you who are tuning in to another episode of Behind the Muscle podcast, I just want to say thank you to you, because if it wasn't for you guys listening, watching, supporting, the podcast wouldn't exist. So I'm always grateful. I'm always thankful for everyone who continues to support Behind the Muscle podcast and all these awesome athletes and coaches that are coming on to share their story with myself and all of you. Just a few things before we wrap up this conversation with Jordan. I would just ask of all of you listening or watching this podcast, if you haven't done so already, please make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. That's very important, because of all of these episodes that I'm pushing out each week. I release all of them first on YouTube, sometimes the night before the release, and then I will do the social media posts or release them on the other podcast platforms the day after. But the point that I'm trying to get at, make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube if you want to stay on top of all the current episodes of Behind the Muscle podcast. Also hit the like button on YouTube, go down in the comment section, and please just leave a comment, leave some feedback, maybe something that you took away from the conversation today with Jordan. Just let us know what you took away, what you appreciate about Jordan, what you're looking forward in terms of his future in the IFBB. And then one last favor I would ask of all of you, if you would take this episode specifically, please, and share it on your Instagram stories. Also, as you share it, make sure you tag Behind the Muscle, tag Jordan, so that we know you listened specifically to this episode and found great value in it. When you guys share these episodes on your Instagram, it's just awesome feedback for myself, knowing that people are listening. But more importantly, it's a great way for other people that have never heard of Behind the Muscle to find the podcast, listen, and be positively impacted. Because that's really the end game for me, is that I bring on these top athletes, these top coaches, they share their stories behind the muscle. And as people listen, people are positively impacted. And then finally, I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.